My name is English Christine. Welcome to my channel if you're new. Welcome back if you've seen one of my videos before. Today we're going to do weekly reads episode 8. I finished 8 books from February 22nd to March 1st. On the 22nd I finished no books, and on the 23rd I finished 1 book. If you're curious about what books we're going to talk about, they're always listed down below because I know not everyone has the wide range of taste in books that I have. The first book is Scythe and Sparrow by Brynne. It is the 3rd book in the Ruinous Love trilogy. I would highly recommend reading these in order. They are interconnected standalones technically, but that's what I would do. I would also take the trigger warnings very, very seriously. They do talk about every single thing they say in the trigger warnings, and it is a dark romance. However, the way that it is written is it's a light dark romance. I know that probably makes no sense. I would also listen to it on audiobook because the audiobooks are perfection. In this book, our male main character is Nguyen. He is the last brother and the brother who seems to have taken the opposite path of his other brothers and not gotten into such dark things and actually became a doctor and healed people. But he definitely has some secrets that unravel throughout the book of maybe he's not exactly all that he appears. Our female main character is Rose. Rose works for the circus as a fortune teller, but she had a bad experience with domestic violence. But as she's doing her tarot cards, she sometimes takes things into her own hands and fixes things that need to be fixed in relationships. And so she tries to fix one of them and it does not go well. The man almost catches her and she ends up with Nguyen, and Nguyen ends up patching her up and letting her stay with him since her circus is leaving town. And the story just really goes from there. One thing I will say about this book is it felt very long. At 50% and then again around 75%, I thought the book was going to be over. But then I looked and I was like, nope, that's not true. And we did uncover more and get more information on things, but I just felt like it was extra long, and I ended up giving that book 3.75 stars. On the 24th, I finished 2 books. The first book I finished on the 24th was Don't Believe Everything You Think by Nguyen. This is a self-help book talking about anxiety, self-sabotage, and like self-doubting. And I really related to that book. It's right up my alley, my struggles. And so I really enjoyed that. I like getting different perspectives on this topic and see what things worked for other people. This book is a shorter book, but I felt like it gave me a new perspective on my thinking. You don't necessarily have to get rid of all of the bad thoughts, because then I would start ruminating on the bad thoughts, like trying to get them out, and then just focus on myself. And I really liked his perspective of like getting outside of yourself, which I know, but it's hard for me to do. And I've been really working on that. And then there was one chapter about him and his partner that just fit me and my partner so very well. I guess the best way to say it is I felt very seen from this book, and it hit on a lot of things that I needed to work on. And I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. The second book I finished on the 24th was Slapshot Surprise by Melanie Harlow. This is the 5th book in the Cherry Tree Harbor series, where we are following the youngest, who is Mabel. Mabel was on a plane. She's very scared of planes, and so when it hits some turbulence, she starts spewing all of her secrets, how she wants a family, to settle down, and all of these things to her seatmate. Her seatmate just tries to calm her down, and then they get off the plane. She is back in Cherry Tree Harbor with her sister-in-law. She goes to a wedding. She sees her seatmate, who ends up being Joe Lupo, who is a famous hockey player, and her family and their family kind of know each other. But regardless, Joe and Mabel end up getting to talking at the wedding, and Joe has made it very clear he doesn't want to settle down or anything like that. But one thing leads to another, and the two of them get together. They didn't disperse, and Mabel finds out she is pregnant. I really liked how Mabel handled this, because she said, I'm going to keep the baby, I'm going to figure it out. And knowing that Joe does not want any kids, she does go and talk to Joe about this and just say, you're going to be a father, but I'm going to keep the kid. You don't have to worry about it. I'm not trying to get money. I'm not trying to get in a relationship with you. I'm just letting you know that I'm keeping the baby and you have one. And from there, Joe has to really make some decisions on whether he agrees with what he originally told her or not. And then she has to decide if she's going to let him in after what he said. I will say the pregnancy trope is not something that I really enjoy, because I would always wonder, are they with me because of the baby or me? Because children grow up and most of them leave the house and you're left with your partner. If you're only with each other because of the children, it's not going to work out once they leave. However, in this book, I did think it was well done, and the way that they communicated about it, I really enjoyed. It's definitely one of my more favorite pregnancy trope books. I ended up giving it 4 stars. The book I finished on the 26th was Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawerence. I was not prepared going into this book. I looked at it, I looked at the genres that were classic, historical fiction, romance, and was like, okay, that seems like I can do it. the classic makes me a little nervous, but let's go for it. It was one of the books on the Gilmore Girl book list that I wanted to read for the month. So I started it. It's about Lady Chatterley, Constance, as she gets married to Clifford. Clifford ends up going to war. He comes back with physical limitations with his belly button down. Because of that, obviously some things aren't working as they should. And so the two of them agree that she can find a lover. So she ends up finding a lover that's the gardener, and there's some drama that goes in with that because I don't think her husband wanted her to find the gardener. But all that to say is I knew it was based on a movie. I looked up the movie halfway through the book, and the movie is rated R. It's definitely not a children's book. I understand why it's been banned in a lot of places. It was published in 1928, which is wild to me. I will just say I just wasn't expecting the things that happened as I started listening to this book. It threw me. I don't mind reading spicy books, as the other books in this video will tell you, but I just think it was not what I was expecting, and then just the classic language with it. It was also the way it was talked about and just the way that it went about. I don't know. This book was just not for me. I ended up giving it 3.25 stars. But speaking of spicy books, on the 27th, I finished Barbarian's Choice by Ruby Dixon, which is a spicy alien romance. It's the 11th book in the Ice Planet Barbarian series, and our female main character is Farley. She's an alien, which is not common for these books, but in this book, we are following Farley. Farley is still unmated, and she wants to wait for resonance, but she's not resonating with any of these other aliens that are around her. So when another alien ship lands, and she starts resonating for Marduk, which is the same species, but the evolution of them is very different. And Farley, as the series title suggests, live on an ice planet. They're very much barbarians in the sense of they don't have a lot of technology, and they are hunter-gatherers. And then Marduk is from a very much more technology based, where there's lots of wars and fighting, and that just is so foreign to Farley as he's trying to explain it to her. She has to make a choice if she's going to stay at the ice planet or go with him, because she is falling in love with him. I thought this book was very unique in this series for multiple reasons. The female is an alien, and then the male isn't even from this tribe, and we get to see a little bit of the outside world, because I feel like we've learned a lot about the history of this planet, and so now we're getting like a broader view of the universe. But I thought this was a fun book, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I finished 3 books on the first. The first book I finished on the first was Officer Off Limits by Tessa Bailey. This is the 3rd book in the Line of Duty series. These books are very much connected because they're all about officers, but disconnected because they seem to happen in different universes. I haven't seen them connect, but maybe they do and I just missed it. Let me know. In this book, we meet Story. Story is engaged, but gets broken up with a few weeks before her wedding. And that same night, she gets a call from her dad, who she's not close with, who lives across the country, is in the hospital. And so she obviously has no reason to stay there and goes to fly with her dad. When she gets to the hospital, she meets Daniel, and the two of them end up flirting a little bit because she can't see her dad yet. She goes up to the room to see her dad, and her dad's telling her about his partner and how he's going to kind of watch over her, and Daniel walks in. Definitely had some sparks when they first met, and so this really throws Daniel because he thinks of Story's dad as a dad almost, and like a mentor, and really looks up to him. And so when he tells him to look after his daughter and keep her safe while she's here, he takes it seriously, but definitely wants to act on the sparks that they had earlier. I thought this was a fun romance. I did think the first like 75% of it was pretty slow. The last 25% of it, we were just hit with thing after thing. I enjoyed that part, and then wrapping everything up from there. I did end up giving this book 3.5 stars. The second book I finished on the first was Jazz by Toni Morrison. This is the second book in the Beloved trilogy. These books are kind of like the Line of Duty series, where they're all connected because all of the Beloved series is talking about the African-American life, but in different time periods. And so in this book, we're in 1926, where Joe, who is a salesman, he's married to Violet, but has a teenage lover and offs her. And so at the funeral, there's a big issue. And so they're just talking about the life, talk about love and obsession and what that all means. And this book is titled Jazz because that's the way the writing is supposed to be. And I did listen to it, and I did find it to be kind of jazz-like. I liked it. I liked Beloved a little bit better, and I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. The last book I finished on the 1st was Forever With You by Robin Jones Gunn. This is the first book in the Todd and Christy marriage years, and so they are now married. They have graduated, Todd has a job, Christy has a job, but things go from bad to worse very quickly, and they are jobless and homeless, and her Aunt Marnie is inserting herself into their marriage, and so there's just a lot happening on top of it being their first year married, which in and of itself is just a big learning curve, especially for them who didn't live together and are so young. I feel like it was just a big transition, and they're hit with all of these things, and we see their reaction to them. And even Todd, we get to see a little bit more emotion from him than I feel like we saw in the other books. So as with the other books, I really felt like they were maturing while still making some interesting choices. I do feel like we have seen them grow and mature. A really good start to the trilogy. And I ended up giving it 4 stars. So those were the 8 books I finished from February 22nd to March 1st. Please let me know if you've read any of the books or you have any books that you think I would enjoy. I'm working to get caught up on these videos, and I have a new format that I like a lot better. So stick with me on these reading weekly reads. I want to share all the books that I read and not just like skip ahead to this new format. So all that to say is thank you if you made it to the end, and I will talk to you later. Bye.